Hello and welcome to another video. This is my February wrap up. So I read 9 books in February. 3 of them were audiobooks, 2 of them were on my Kindle, and then 4 of them were physical books. This may be my last wrap up for a little while because it is now March when I'm filming this. I'm due to give birth any day now. So I won't be filming any book videos for a few months just to kind of get into a routine and just get used to life as a mum and that sort of thing. So yeah, anyway, let's just get into this wrap up. I've also got a reading vlog coming up after this video. It should be up a week after this video where I do read some of the books in this video. If you want to hear some of my more like in-depth thoughts about the books, then keep your eyes peeled for that video. Anyway, let's get into the wrap up. One of the physical books that I read this month was Powerful by Lauren Roberts, which is a novella that is part of the Powerless trilogy. So this book you're supposed to read between the first and the second book in the trilogy. I read the first book in January. It wasn't like as amazing as I thought it was going to be. I thought I was going to be absolutely obsessed with it, but I wasn't. But I did still really enjoy it. I think I gave it like a 4.25 stars, which is obviously still a really, really good rating. And this book I also gave a 4.25 stars. For a novella, I would say this is a really, really good book. It didn't take me very long to get through because the writing is quite big, as you can see. So I just flew through this really. And the Powerless trilogy is based around like the main female character is called Paige, and this novella is about her best friend Adina, and it's sort of what happens to Adina during the events of the first book, Powerless. I definitely recommend reading this if you have read the Powerless book and you want to know more about like what happened and things like that and get more into the characters and stuff. It was a very good novella. I did really enjoy this. This next book took me a little while to get through because it is an absolute chunker of a book, and that is Keeping 13 by Chloe Walsh. I had started this quite a long time ago, like last summer. I read about 100 pages of it then, and then I just wasn't in the mood to read like such a massive book. This book's about 800 pages long, so it is a very long book for a romance. And I must admit, there was a part in the middle of this book that I feel like could have been condensed down. Like it did kind of take a while, some of it to get going, but I do understand that this book and this series is a bit more like character based rather than plot based, although there is a very strong plot in these books as well, but quite a lot of it is just about the characters and getting to know them. So you do end up getting to know the characters really, really well. And yeah, I ended up really, really enjoying this. I gave it 4.5 stars. I think I gave the first book in the series a 4.75 stars, so I think I enjoyed the first book a little bit more, but I still love this so much and I can't wait to get to the rest of the series. But I don't think I'll be getting to it for a little while just because those books are so long as well, and I'm not going to really be wanting to read really thick books with a newborn, so I'll probably give this series a little break and then come back to it at another time. I finished Johnny and Shannon's story, which is this book and the first book in the series, so I've wrapped up their kind of part of the story, which is good, so I'm happy that I finished this one. If you do really like more character-based books and books that really go deep into the characters and the emotions that they have, and there is a lot of like trauma and stuff like that in this book as well, then I would recommend this series to you. I also read Life's Too Short by Abby Jimenez, which is the last Abby Jimenez book that I needed to read out of her like main series, because she's got her newest trilogy, which I've read all of them, Just for the Summer, Part of Your World, those ones, and then there's also this trilogy which is her older ones, which is The Friend Zone, The Happy Ever After Playlist, and Life's Too Short. So this was the last one I needed to get to, and all of her other books I've rated really, really highly, and this one I did rate a little bit lower because I feel like this book just didn't have as strong of a plot, and I just feel like this book took a long time for me to get into it. It was sort of dragging on for quite a while for me. So this is my only book of hers that I've rated under 4 stars. I gave this one a 3.75. This book's basically about a girl called Vanessa who lives in like this little studio apartment, and she gets left her sister's baby to look after. She just gets left the baby, and one of her neighbours, who I think owns the block of flats, I'm not too sure, I think he owns the flats or something, he is up all night because he just hears the baby crying all night, so he goes to offer her some help, and he just says like, look, you go have a shower, I'll hold your baby, look after her for a moment, you go have some time to yourself, just like calm down. And he got the baby settled, and the friendship sort of goes from there, but she doesn't want a relationship because she thinks she's got this really bad health condition, which means she probably only have like a year or so to live. So she doesn't want to obviously get into a relationship if she knows she's not going to live for much longer. So that's the basic kind of premise of the plot. But I just found I just wasn't as attached to these characters, and it just wasn't my favourite of hers. Obviously I still, whoa, my cat's having a little fight. If you can hear them in the background, I apologise. But I still did really enjoy it. It still had that Abby Jimenez feel, but I just feel like the characters and the plot just wasn't my favourite of hers. So I gave it 3.75 stars, which is still a really good rating, but yeah. And then the last physical book that I read during February was Without Merit by Colleen Hoover. I wanted another really quick read, and I know that Colleen Hoover's books tend to be really easy to read and get through, and this wasn't very long either. It was like 350 pages, so I thought I would read this. It was a bit disappointing to me. Like, I do like some of Colleen Hoover's books, but there are a couple which I haven't been as keen on, and this is definitely one of the ones that I'm not as keen on. And this book basically follows Merit and her family, and her family is very, very messed up. So she lives in like a converted church kind of thing with her dad, her stepmom, and her mum. Her real mum lives in the basement, and then she's got her siblings and stuff that live with her. But there's loads of like complicated family dynamics, and she's also suffering with like her mental health and stuff, so there is a lot of things in this book about suicide, self-harm and stuff like that. So if that's not something you want to read about, then don't pick this up. I found myself like not really knowing where the plot was going when I was reading this. Like, I sort of was just reading it, but I didn't really know what the point of the book was, if you know what I mean. Like, I didn't know what was actually happening. I knew what was happening, but I just didn't know where the plot was going, or like what really needed to be resolved to end the book kind of thing. I don't know, it was a bit of a strange one, but I gave it 3 stars because I still managed to get through it really quickly, and I did enjoy it. It was like kind of addicting in a weird kind of way, but at the same time I just found it a little bit strange and was not a favourite, unfortunately. One of the books that I read on my Kindle was His Loving Wife by Miranda Smith, and this was a random book. I can't even remember when I bought this on my Kindle, but I must have bought it quite a long time ago, and I just thought, you know what, it's time to read this, see what this is about. Had quite good ratings on Goodreads, so I thought it was going to be really good, but I didn't really like it, if I'm honest with you. It was a bit of a weird one. Like, there was parts of it where I was sort of gripped, but then the overall story, I don't know. And to be honest, I can't really remember exactly what it was about. Like, it wasn't that memorable either. So it was kind of about a family, and they go on holiday for a couple of weeks. I can't really remember. I think there was some like stalker in her family before this, like a few years before they go on this holiday. There's a stalker, and he thinks that one of their daughters is his or something. So their family got harassed and they're a bit traumatized from that. But then honestly, I can't really remember the rest, but that's sort of where the story starts off anyway. But it just wasn't my favourite, and I think also it probably didn't help the fact that I was reading this book each night when I got into bed, so I was reading it over the span of a few weeks. So I was sort of reading a couple chapters every time I got into bed on my Kindle. So I feel like I might have enjoyed it more if I read it all sort of, if I binge read it, if you know what I mean. I probably would have enjoyed it a little bit more. But I ended up giving this book a 3 stars. It wasn't terrible. There were parts of it that I was quite gripped, but overall it just wasn't one of my favourite thrillers. At the end of the month, I picked up another Freida Mcfadden book, which I'm trying to get through all of her backlist because I do really enjoy her thrillers. I find them just really easy to read, and they always have really good plot twists. So I'm just trying to get through all of her books basically, and I had this one on my Kindle downloaded, so I thought I'd give it a go. Unfortunately, this one as well wasn't one of my favourite of hers, but I did still really enjoy it, and it did get better, quite a lot better after the 50% mark. Hey, your baby girl. And this book followed 2 timelines, as quite often her books do. Okay, just gonna sit there. One of the timelines is basically following a guy called Tom, and I think this is like a few years in the past or a few months in the past or something like that. Basically about a guy called Tom, and he starts dating this girl called Daisy that he really likes, and stuff sort of happens from there. And there's also some like family stuff that happens from his side of the story. And then there's a now timeline, which is following a girl called Sydney, and she goes on a date with a random guy from a dating app, and he turns out to be a bit of a creep. So some stuff kind of happens with this guy, and then also she finds one of her closest friends murdered in her bed. Her friend's like chopped up in her bed, which is obviously really gross. And obviously she wants to know who's done this, so some detective is like working on the case to figure out who the murderer is. And also the detective working on that case is also one of Sydney's ex-boyfriends, so there's a little bit of tension and stuff going on there as well. I thought I had some theories, and I thought I'd kind of figured it out. I thought some of my theories were probably a little bit too obvious. And I got none of them right, so it was a complete surprise. There was a good plot twist at the end, which I did enjoy. The first sort of half of the book there wasn't too much going on, and it took a little while for it to get going, but other than that, it was a really good one. I would recommend it. I ended up giving this one 3.5 stars, which is an okay rating. I would still recommend it out of her books, but it's just not one of my favourite ones of hers. Finally, the audiobooks. I listened to 3 audiobooks, and this is the Jefferson series by Paige Toon. This is like a YA series, and this follows on from one of her adult series, which I read last month. It follows on from these books, Johnny Be Good and Baby Be Mine. These are really old ones of hers, but I found them like strangely addicting, so I ended up wanting to listen to the audiobooks of the other like companion series, which is the Jefferson series, which I listened to via audio. But they sort of link in the sense of these books here, they're about a world famous rock star called Johnny, and then the Jefferson series that I listened to via audiobook, which is a trilogy, follows a girl who it turns out to be one of his children, but he didn't know about it. It was just like a one-night stand kind of thing with one of his like groupies, I think, or something, and she ends up finding out that her dad is Johnny, and it goes from there really. So Jessie ends up moving to LA. Her original home is in England, and there's a love triangle, so there's a guy she likes there, and then there's a guy that she meets in LA, and there's just like loads of drama and stuff that happens really. It's quite young, I would say. It was definitely very YA, but I did still really enjoy it. It was just like, they were very kind of addictive reads, and they were just very easy to listen to while I was doing other things. So I did enjoy them. I gave the first one 3.25 stars, the second one 3.5 stars, and then the last one 3.25 stars. So they were entertaining, and I'm glad I read them and listened to them, but nothing special, but they were just good to listen to, just entertaining pretty much. That's the only reason I was listening to them, just for the entertainment value. They weren't like very deep or anything, like, you know. But yeah, I listened to those audiobooks. So now we're into March. I'm currently reading, let me just get my book that I'm currently reading. I'm currently reading The Reappearance of Rachel Price, which is my like book club that I'm part of. It's our pick of the month, so I'm reading that, nearly finished it, and then I'm hoping to get to Reckless, which is the second book in the Powerless trilogy, before the third one comes out in like a month or 2. So I'm hoping to then read that, but obviously it just depends when I end up having my baby, if I'm going to get through many more books after that, or if I'm even going to get to finish Reckless. But anyway, we will see. I will probably do like some sort of wrap up in a few months' time with like what I have read over like March, April, May kind of time. I probably will do some sort of wrap up or some video saying what books I've read and stuff, but I just don't know when. But as I said, I will have a video coming up in a week's time, which is a reading vlog where I read some of the books that I have mentioned in this video. So it was a vlog that I filmed throughout February. I did like a what I realistically read in a week videos. Please subscribe if you want to see that video, and check that out when the video comes out. Hope you enjoyed this wrap up, and I'll hopefully see you in my next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.